Welcome to Lacrosse Recruiting 101, where the biggest names in lacrosse share their inside views and expertise. Now, your host, Luke Cometti.
In this short special edition of the podcast, I'm at the NXT Philly Showcase in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. I was fortunate enough to grab a word with some of the coaches at the event as they were there on the sideline evaluating future prospects for their programs. I didn't want to disturb them too much as they were there to recruit, so I asked them just a few questions each that would hopefully give high school players, parents, and high school coaches an idea of what is going through the mind of a college coach when they recruit at a top-tier showcase. The coaches interviewed all had unique perspectives on what they like to see and what they do not like to see from a player out on the field. However, you will notice there are also some common themes amongst them as well. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the episode. I'm here with Coach Bill Tierney, head Denver men's lacrosse coach, watching some face-off guys. Coach, what do you look for when you're recruiting a face-off player?
Well, first is hand speed. That's the first thing, because if they can't beat the whistle or beat their opponent to the initial clamp, then it becomes much harder. So that's first, and then certainly technique, exits. Sometimes a lot of these kids are so good that there's a lot of times where it's 50-50. So, knowing how to get out of that 50-50, knowing how to exit, and then certainly strength, athleticism. And then the one that I think a lot of people forget is what do they look like after they get the ball, and because a lot of them are just face-off guys and then are hazardous when they have the ball. So all those things come into play, as we go forward. But basically, seeing who wins the initial clamp is important, and then what they do with it when they get it. In other words, getting away from their opponent and and the defenders that are trying to get to them.
Awesome. Great info, Coach. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm here with Associate Head Coach Kyle Georgalas, Army West Point men's lacrosse. Coach, what is your primary focus when sitting on the sideline watching these games?
Yeah, I think especially in a showcase situation, I'm looking initially to see how well a young man can make those around him better in the defensive end, how well he's communicating off the ball, communicating when guys should be sliding, being able to support the ball if he is the slider. And then the offensive end, how well they can share the ball. A lot of times the tendency is just to get sticky with the ball offensively. Guys that can draw slides, move the ball twice, be able to dodge from X both-handed and be able to see through the field, find the skips, be able to turn the corner. But I think the biggest thing is just to be able to see guys that are able to make those guys around them just better lacrosse players based on the way that they play.
Absolutely. Give me one thing today a player has done that made you take interest in him.
I think a big part is just off the ground, just, going in blind, not really knowing who a specific player is, just starting off the ground, how well they compete, picking up tough ground balls, how well they ride for attackmen and midfielders. Are they going to run off the field? Midfielders going to run off the field right away, or are they going to stay in the play and make themselves stand out as a true two-way midfielder? And I think the physicality, defensemen, just being able to be a stop guy first if they're on the ball is an important aspect. And I think guys have done a pretty good job out here with that so far.
I love that. All things you can control coming into an event like this. What is the biggest mistake you have seen so far by a player?
I think the biggest mistake a player can make is just when he does make a mistake, lets it linger. You're going to make a ton of plays out there, some of them great plays, some of them poor plays. You're going to drop a ball, you're going to miss a pass, you're going to be late on a slide. I'm really concerned more about how they react on the next play. Do they make the same mistakes over and over again, or are they able to adapt? Are they able to just let it go and be able to just make the next play?
You're the man, Coach. Thanks for the info.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
I'm here with Ric Beardsley, head coach of CBA of Syracuse, 4-time Syracuse All-American, and the Field 2 administrator here at the Philly Showcase. Rick, what are you seeing here today? How's the talent been?
First of all, I'd like to I'm known as the Field General of Field 2, and Paolo is the Field Colonel. The Field 2 talent today, honestly, has been great. The 21s, just to see some of the kids, number one, how big they are, number two, how fast they are, and the level of coaching it seems they're getting from these college guys has really been great. I mean, I watched each game these coaches are out, giving their all, and all our job is very simple, is just to let them know when to make subs and keep a score and try and, corral them when it comes time to do the All-Star balloting. But I'll tell you what, all in all, the talent has been great thus far. There's been a ton of college coaches on our field. We now have a 22s playing right now, and there's some really stud 22s out here. I mean, and I'm in amazement of how big these kids are as well. And, there's been some small ones that have been really successful out there as well. I mean, the quickness has been crazy. Goaltending, good defending. We've been able to see some good lacrosse today.
That's awesome. And being a phenomenal defender yourself, what is one thing you want to see from more defenders out here? One thing you think they could work on?
So I think there's a bunch of things, but I think one thing the defenders need to work on personally is their off-ball play. They seem to get buried. They don't understand that, when you're on the ball, it's you, and when you're off the ball, you're part of a unit. I just think they need to understand those little things, those little nuances of where to be. The positioning means a ton. Off ball, for example, if, I've always been taught play ball side. So that way when I got cuts, you're in the lane. Things like that. And that's easy coachable things. But, nowadays, as you know, being a club director down at Iron Horse is one of the greatest programs, by the way, in the country that I know of, and having some of the best talent in the state of Texas on your teams. The one thing is, when it comes time for, the college coaches to grab them, they're grabbing athletes. Yeah. And they're teaching them how to be at that level. So that's the one good thing out of this, a lot of good athletes. But we try, just like you're trying, is to make them better so when they're prepared, when they get to college, they're prepared to play.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Rick. Thank you.
You betcha, Luke. You're the man.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by the Holiday Lacrosse Camp, which takes place from December 20th through the 22nd in Dallas, Texas. This is the 13th year of the most unique lacrosse camp in the country, where the nation's top NCAA college coaches come to Texas to work with the best players in the state. If you're in the area, I would not want to miss this opportunity to improve your game. Register online now at deuceslax.com. I'm here with assistant coach of Rutgers, Eric Saramit. Coach, what is your primary focus when sitting on the sideline watching these games?
I think, when I'm out here watching guys play, I'm looking at the intensity at which they play, how hard they're going. Are they jogging around the field, or are they buckling down and getting their nose down and playing hard, whether it's through a grounder or a ride, or what they're doing off the ball as well. So making sure they're engaged the whole time they're on the field.
Absolutely. Controlling what they can control. Give me one thing today a player has done that made you take interest in him.
I was watching a kid earlier today and saw a ground ball and noticed that he got his nose down, went right through the pile. It showed me that, he's a pretty tough kid and wasn't afraid to get into the mix.
Ground balls win games. What's the biggest mistake you've seen from a player today?
Well, I was watching, it's funny, we get a lot of videos on defensemen, and most of the time you see them carrying the ball down the field. So I noticed this one defenseman today just take a poor angle, not really doing a great job at defending. Although he showed some good speed, I would have liked to have seen him be able to defend a little better.
Absolutely. Coach, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm here with Tucker Durkin, Drexel, assistant coach. Coach, what is the primary focus when sitting on the sideline watching these games?
Yeah, so you're obviously here for the entire day, and you're watching a ton of lacrosse. So you're looking for guys that can help the program. A lot of times at these tournaments, you might see a kid 2, 3, 4 times in a day. And for us, it's like you want to find kids that can come and help right away. right? So you're looking for guys that, you think are good enough to play as early as possible.
Yeah, makes sense. Give me one thing today a player has done that made you take interest in him.
I would say there's been a couple guys we're obviously interested in. I've seen today that I really like. The biggest thing for me is lacrosse IQ. I would say, there's all these kids are great athletes. There was a kid. Either 1 or 2 games ago, and he was a defenseman, and you could just see the way he positioned himself inside, off of the ball, the way he was talking. He was running out shots and kind of just doing the little things, right? It wasn't like he was, crushing guys on the ball or, taking the ball away a bunch or picking up a ton of ground balls. It was honestly, you could just see, how he positioned himself inside, how he communicated. He would slide, he was fake sliding. I was pretty impressed.
That means a lot coming from you, too. And last thing, what is one mistake you've seen by a player here that maybe players can avoid if they're listening to this?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple of things. I mean, the obvious is, bad body language or, yelling at a teammate or, kind of just not having a great attitude. It's kind of, the obvious question or the obvious answer that you would probably think. Another thing would be trying to do too much. So like kind of going back to my last answer, right? A lot of times, doing the little things or like clearing through, when a dodge is coming is like, something that as a coach and all high level, coaches will recognize rather than trying to run through 3 guys or, take the ball away every time you're on the ball, just playing solid and playing within yourself. You don't have to you're here all day. We're going to see you multiple times. You don't have to impress us every single time, you have the opportunity.
Let the game come to you. Thanks, Tucker. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I'm here on the sideline of the NXT Philly Showcase with head coach of LIU Post, Eric Wolf. Coach, what is your primary focus when sitting on the sideline watching these games?
First thing, I don't sit. I stand. I've just found my energy gets really low over 9 to 10 hours out here, so it's also kind of mental warfare. If you're standing, you kind of earn your seat in your car on the way home. But I think you're looking for tough kids with grit, kids who are going to make mistakes and stay in the play as opposed to, kind of taking themselves out of it. So I'm really looking for toughness above all else.
You ever take a knee?
I have been known to take a knee, but it doesn't last longer for more than a minute.
Give me one thing today a player has done that has made you take interest in him.
Physicality. I saw a kid just take a body and put a kid down and then be really vocal with his teammates, energy guy. So that kind of stuff that isn't, I'm not necessarily looking for a kid, ripping the net or scoring goals. You're looking for those kind of grit plays in between the lines.
Awesome. What is the biggest mistake you have seen by a player today?
I saw a kid screaming at his teammate. It's a showcase, and some of these guys don't even know their names, so I don't think getting on each other is something that you're going to be looking for when you're out here. You want players that are going to be external and lifting guys up as opposed to putting somebody down.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to Lacrosse Recruiting 101. Catch us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Have a question for Luke? Email them to questions@lacrosserecruiting101.com.